Hi, I'm Bart Loeser, and welcome back to another one of Toastmaster District 55's continuing education program. We've been talking about speech preparation and delivery, and we've divided up the presentation into 4 parts. Now, in part number 4, we're now going to focus on virtual delivery, which is a fairly recent skill for many of us as Toastmasters. Because of the COVID virus issue, we aren't able to meet in person anymore, so learning how to present online is not only helpful in our Toastmasters meetings, but when we get back to the real world, the way we used to speak, we still are going to find we have lots of meetings that are online. Building your presence online is very, very helpful. So there's a few things we're going to talk about in this particular area of virtual skills, but in the first of the series, we focused on coping with fear and anxiety, speech preparation, delivery style, and now virtual delivery skills. Being online, it's very different than speaking in person, but you can still have impact. So there are certain things to know about virtual delivery. So preparing for the virtual environment means you have to consider a few things. One of the most important things to consider is practicing in this environment, presenting even before you have to meet with somebody else or with a group. So one thing I recommend is open up a Zoom account. It's free, and these basic accounts include up to 40 minutes of a meeting, or you could just have a meeting at any time when you have your own account, and you can start a meeting and then you could actually let someone know, hey, I'd like to talk to you. Why don't you join my Zoom meeting? So you can practice on your own, or you can practice with another person or two, or you could actually have a full meeting in there. I do a lot of my officers' meetings through the Zoom account. Then secondly, you want to be able to store your meeting ID or the link for your ID somewhere that's very convenient, so that if for one reason your internet goes out, you lose your connection, you can easily get back into it. Or you might even set a personal ID with something you can remember, like a phone number or something like that. And that way it would be very easy for you to refer to other people and let them know about your meeting. You also want to ensure that you've got good video and a great mic. Now in this particular one, I'm wearing a little microphone, this is just a little handheld mic that I can actually clip on as well. So either way, you can use a microphone that way. You could use the microphone on your phone or your computer. It's just that you want to test it out and make sure that it sounds right, especially if you're in a big room where you might sound like you're in a tunnel. You don't want to have that microphone sound, that echoey type sound as well. Another way to ensure that you've got a good video is to make sure, like right now I'm filming with my iPhone, which has better video than my computer. So depending on the quality, you might want to decide what that camera will look like, or even buy your own camera, so that if you have an older computer, like a desktop that doesn't have a video, like its own camera, then you want to go ahead and get a separate camera so that will work for you. Number 4, make sure you've got the right amount of lighting. That's probably one of the most important things I work on once I have everything set up, is what kind of lighting do I want to have? Right now, this is natural lighting for me, but if it's getting darker, or if there's too much light coming on, like if the sun is coming into my window, it's going to be too much light on my background or create some shadows that will be distracting. So you might want to add other lights in the room. You might want to be careful of not having a light that's directly overhead, and more have it just kind of out in front of you, so that the light shines more this direction. And you might want one that shines this direction and shines this direction for even lighting as well. So creating appropriate and the right amount of lighting is very important, as well as considering what kind of background you're going to use, whether you want to use a plain background or even those virtual backgrounds. But be very careful about the virtual backgrounds, because in virtual backgrounds, sometimes if you come forward or back, the computer program can't really read where your face is, and sometimes it gets lost and disappears into the background. You also don't want to choose clothing that might match the background, because then again, your computer can't tell the difference and it's going to mess up the look you want to have. You also want to use your smartphone as a backup. So if you're using your computer where you're dependent on the Wi-Fi, and if you don't have a strong Wi-Fi where the signal might go out on you, you might want to have a backup. So I always have my phone as a backup, so that if anything goes wrong, if I'm presenting, I have my phone where I can present on my phone, where I can count on that a lot more than perhaps a dicey internet connection. Another thing too is using a wired mic over a computer mic. This is a wired mic that I'm using right now, which will actually focus the sound. You may have been in meetings before where you had someone using their computer with their computer audio, but when they're typing, you can actually hear that. Also with a local microphone, that could be one that's in your ears, a wired one from your ears, or I'm just using, like I said, just a simple microphone that this one has a clip, and so I use this particular mic. But you can use all sorts of different types of equipment, but you want to have something that's going to work well for your meeting. Last thing I want to tell you about the virtual environment is helpful hints. Number one, arrive early for a meeting, at least 5 to 10 minutes, so you can test out your equipment, make sure everything is going well, and that you understand how to use the tools that are there. Another thing is mute your mic when you're not talking. This way you avoid the risk of any background noise coming up that could interrupt or detract from the speech. And if someone else is talking, it could interfere with that. So one way to avoid that is keep your microphone on mute unless you need to talk. And at that point, just be prepared to quickly unmute yourself and unmute yourself when you're done. Another thing is maintain awareness of your visual presence. What you see is what they see. So if I have to blow my nose, you definitely might not want people to see that, or people who get up and walk away. Again, if you're going to get up and walk away, turn your video off. Better yet, have a picture of yourself assigned to your account so that when you turn the video off, it still shows a picture of you. That works really well. I mean, after a while, people will notice you're not moving, but it can be done pretty well. So if you need to get away, they still feel a connection when they can see your face. Better than having a blank screen there. Another thing is keep in mind, don't multitask. So if you're doing other things during a meeting, people can kind of tell when you're doing other things. So don't multitask while you're in a meeting. A few other tools that we will talk about that are important. Again, I can't stress enough, make sure you know how to turn that mute button on and off very quickly. And if you're running the meeting, you might want to make sure you inform everybody, instruct them. That way your meeting won't have any noise interference, which is one of the biggest problems that sometimes we face in meetings. You also want to learn about all the video cam options, how to turn it on, off, how to change those virtual backgrounds, and even this thing called mirroring, so that if you're going to show something that is written, you want to make sure that people can see that they can read the writing, because if it's not on mirroring, they may see it backwards, like when you hold up something written in front of a mirror. So you want to make sure you've got the mirroring aspects adjusted if you're going to show anything on your camera that needs to be, that's spelled out basically. Also get familiar with your settings options. You've got all sorts of things that you can do with your settings that can impact the quality of your, whether it's the vocals or the quality of the visuals. So, and when you're deciding how you're going to look at your camera and look at the program, decide whether you're going to be on gallery view where you can see everyone and sort of like that little Brady Bunch windows, or speaker view where you primarily see the speaker and just a handful of people in a strip that you can move. Now, if you have to see one particular person in that strip and the speaker, then you might want to pin their picture so that they're one of the 4 people that you always see. And lastly here is avoid or remove any unnecessary distractions. That's things that might happen in the background, or I might close a door if there's going to be movement in the background, or the place looks messy where you're at. So you want to make sure there's nothing that distracts people or makes them wonder, what is that back there? It looks like something. You want to make sure that there's no things going on like that can detract. And then the last pieces here is know these features. You've got that chat feature, which is the ability to communicate with other people without disrupting. But one important thing to know about chat is that with the chat feature, you can talk to an individual, just one, or that's a private chat, or you can chat with everybody. Be very careful if you're chatting something to a private person that you don't want other people to know about, and you accidentally chat it to everybody. Or sometimes I think I'm chatting to everybody and I sent this to one particular person. So know and be aware of those challenges. You can also attach documents and links in this chat feature. So if you want to say, oh, I'll attach this link and you guys could look this up later. You also want to make sure that you're not talking over people. This is one of the biggest problems, especially in the audio calls, whenever you're on the phone with somebody. In video calls, you generally can see the person that's talking, but that means if there's any noise, or if you say one thing or even clear your throat and your phone is not on mute, you will come up as the primary person at that moment. So one of the things you want to make sure of is keep your mic off, mute your mic. And if you do need to get someone's attention, one of the best things you can do is there's a little signal where you can do a hand raise, or you could type a message to somebody. So there's different ways you can do it, but try not to overtalk people in a meeting. It gets really annoying. Another thing is that if you want to invite other people in the meeting, there's an invite feature where you can either email or text a meeting link to somebody and say, hey, I'm in a meeting here, or we're in the meeting, here's the information, come and join us. There's also that share screen feature, which is what we're doing right now, sharing this PowerPoint. You have to know that feature well and practice turning it on, turning it off, practice choosing what you're going to show on the screen, whether you want to show them the windows of your computer, where you're at, or you want to show them a specific document. So make sure there's nothing on there that you don't want people to see. So when you share your computer, make sure you know what's going to come up when you go to share computer, because personal photos and things like that, you might not want to share those with others. This has been Speech Preparation and Delivery, the part 4 of 4 of virtual delivery. I'm Bart Loeser, and I do appreciate you joining us here for Toastmasters District 55's Continuing Education Program. You can find out more about us on our Toastmasters District 55 website. Now that's TMD55. And I would love to hear any feedback that you might have. So please do feel free to contact me, tmbartloeser@gmail.com. And we do offer a variety of different live classes that you can come on and participate in and ask questions. And those are on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Tuesdays of each month, as listed here. These are the current programs: Speech Preparation and Delivery, Evaluations and Table Topics, and Speech Writing Made Easy. Again, on behalf of Toastmasters District 55, I thank you for being in here and joining the program.